And welcome, Hoosier Nation, to our 60th episode of the Hoosier Sound, where our mission and our goal is simple. We want to bring in-depth analysis and coverage for Indiana University sports to as many fans as possible across a multitude of modern platforms. We are recording this edition of the Hoosier Sound on Tuesday evening, October 30th, the day before Halloween, where I am your host, Noah Freeman, and I am with my usual co-host, Matthew Lukens.
Sup?
Normally, we'll be going live every Tuesday evening at 8:30 p.m., but if you miss us live, you can subscribe to various networks. You can listen on your own time. Check out our Twitter and Facebook at The Hoosier Sound and subscribe. All of the information is in our website, thehoosiersound.com. All right, Hoosier Nation, it is time for some sports talk. But first, even before Matt's memorable moment, we have a very, very big and wonderful announcement to make.
Woohoo!
We teased this at the end of the show last week, if any of you managed to listen all the way to the end to this. So here you go for everyone who knew about this ahead of time. But we are ecstatic to finally be able to announce our partnership between the Hoosier Sound and Indiana HQ, a new medium for getting the latest and greatest analysis for Indiana University sports. Rob and the staff over at Indiana HQ reached out to us a few weeks ago asking if Matt and I wanted to become part of their team. We found out that our mission between both platforms were incredibly similar. We both want to bring in-depth analysis and coverage for Indiana University sports to as many fans as possible across a multitude of modern platforms. A few weeks later, here we are. We are delighted to announce our partnership with such a great organization over at Indiana HQ. So, what does this mean for you, the listeners, our longtime listeners? Well, this partnership will expand the Hoosier Sound's means of analysis and coverage to you, the listeners, in a variety of different ways as well. Matt and I are very busy, and we have always wanted to give you all more. This relationship between Indiana HQ will give everyone more streamlined information, both in articles and podcasts. We have easy-to-use schedules, scholarship information, articles, a recruiting page, and email lists coming out soon, as well as our own podcast, The Hoosier Sound, all with Indiana HQ now. Head over to their website, indianahq.com, to find all of this information in one place. Check out their Twitter at IndianaHQ and definitely give them a follow. Lastly, you may be wondering if the Hoosier Sound's website, Twitter, Facebook, all of those platforms will be going away. For now, we're going to keep those up and running, but we could potentially streamline it better down the road. Again, we are really, really, really excited about this partnership, so head on over and check out all of their work. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. All right. Now, Matt, would you like to mention your memorable monologue for this week in IU sports, as well as maybe a word or two about our new partnership with Indiana HQ?
Absolutely. Just on Indiana HQ for a second. They're great guys over there. They approached us. It's really just it's a great thing because it works out well for both of us. They were looking for a podcast. We were looking for a group of people to work with and to make things a lot easier on our lives since we're busy and it's just funny how things worked out and how Twitter DMs work. Anyways, but I'm really excited and I can't wait to see what this journey and where this journey leads us. But my memorable monologue. Let's get back to the meat of the podcast. So earlier this week, or I guess it was last week, but it was after we had recorded the podcast. Indiana men's basketball Twitter and Instagram announced that they were going to have an open practice just for the students this year. The first one of two that Archie Miller has hinted at happened today at 5:00. I would have gone, and I'm sure Noah would have gone as well, but Noah is in another state, and I had a test at 5:45 that I couldn't move. Thank you, my sports law class.
How did your test go?
What?
How did your test go?
My test went. It was really hard. I am not a law person, and constitutional law is. It's hard, but like it's especially hard when you have to apply it. It went interesting. We'll just put it that way. But no. So So I would have gone, but everything I heard from the practice was great. I heard Evan Fitzner didn't miss a shot for like 20 minutes, which that's all I expect from him. And that Jerome had the gold jersey this week. But I think it's more than just letting the students see inside the program. I think it's great to get the students involved, because as you know, when Simon Scott Assembly Hall is rocking, there's almost no better home court advantage in college basketball. Last year was a little lackluster. The student body showed up at the Duke game, of course, as you do. And I'm sure they're going to show up at the Marquette game this year. But when things got tough last year, the student section looked a little bit sparse. And it can't look that way this year if we're hoping to beat some of the teams in the Big Ten at home and push for a Big Ten title. So I think it's great to get the students involved and kind of make them feel like they're a part of the team as well. So getting them into a practice and then feeding them pizza and then letting the players hang out with them is a great way to keep the students involved. I hope to do a little bit more events with the community as well. I thought Archie, when he came in, was going to be very like sheltered and almost like keep everything secret, but so far he's very outgoing with not only the student body but fans as a whole. And the program has taken a little bit of a jump from the Crean era to now, to where you see the basketball players everywhere. They say hi. When during the Crean era, especially my freshman and sophomore year, you wouldn't really run into the basketball players that much. So it's just awesome, and it's a different vibe around campus, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree. Again, I wish I could go, but I am 10 hours away from being able to go. I have a student ID still, even though I'm not technically a student. But I would still be able to get in. But I'm going to move on to my point. And there was a lot that actually happened in this past week at IU, because I could talk about the closed scrimmage that happened. But really, there's not much to talk about it with Jeff Rabjohns kind of tweeted all of it. And that's about it for how we know how Sunday went. But I'm really going to talk about IU men's soccer. This past weekend, they defeated Michigan State 1-0 in overtime with a golden goal, which means they went undefeated, 8-0 in conference play this year, which is the first time in Big Ten history for this to ever happen, for a soccer team to go undefeated in conference play, which is incredible. First, we're making history, and all we do is win games, literally, for IU soccer.
All we do is win games.
Yeah, literally. No exaggeration. But that means they will be playing number 1 IU. They're going to play on Sunday, November 4th. They're going to play the winner of number 8 Northwestern and number 9 Ohio State. And that game, the winner of either of those games will be Sunday at 4:00 p.m. So check out wherever you can start watching that game. I think it will be on BTN. Yes, it's going to be on BTN. So you will be able to watch as IU soccer to see if they can get all the way to the Big Ten championship. So let's get into the meat and the crux of our episode, which is going to be a fun one. We are purposely not talking about IU football this past weekend because I think everyone would shut the episode off right away. I think Matt and I might shut it down right away. So let's get into some basketball, because we're now doing an annual tradition where Matt and I are going to go through each game. We're going to say, all right, Matt, who do you think is going to win this game? And Matt's going to say, I think IU is going to win this game, but they're going to lose this game. We're going to tally them up, and we're going to predict every single game and see how we do by the end of the year. Last year, Matt and I did pretty well. I think there was only 6 or 7 games. We both tied. It was either 6 or 7 games we got wrong. So we actually did pretty good, surprisingly, compared to the craziness of last year. And really, like, half of those games that we got wrong were like Indiana State and Illinois and all of those kinds of games. But we don't have to talk about that. Let's talk about our upcoming schedule for the 2018-2019 Indiana University men's basketball schedule. Our first game, we're not going to go against exhibition games. I don't think Indiana would lose the Thursday exhibition game, but nevertheless, let's go to next Tuesday, November 6th. We are playing for our season opener, Chicago State, at 7:00 p.m., which will be a home game. Before we get into this specific game, Matt, do you think there are any of these cupcake games that do you think that IU's going to lose? Are there any games that might be Indiana State or Fort Wayne-esque with any of the cupcake games that IU has on their schedule this year?
I mean, just looking at the schedule, I really don't see anybody. If it's anybody's UC Davis, maybe. UC Davis is a very good team. They've been a tournament team here or there, 13, 14, 15 seed in the tournament. As one of the mid-major teams that, kind of wins their conference championship and gets an automatic bid. They're supposed to they predict out as being pretty decent. They have a decent 7-footer. So if anybody's going to Indiana State us and kind of pull up an upset in Bloomington, it's going to be them. Other than UT Arlington's has been a pretty decent team in the past. I don't think they'll be too much to handle. So I think UC Davis of anybody has the best shot.
Okay. So do you think it's much of a debate? Chicago State next Tuesday, which we can do basically a post-game conference. A post-game show. We'll start a little late. Do you think Chicago State win-loss? Do you think there's much of a chance they're going to lose against Chicago State?
If we lose against Chicago State, we have a major problem. Chicago State is supposedly the worst team in Division I basketball. So, take that as you will.
Yeah, we thought Indiana State would be a win last year, but even Chicago State is nothing like Indiana State last year. So I agree.
There's cupcakes. This is just a cake. This is simple. Shout out to Mark Titus and the One Shining Pod. Mark Titus should be coaching this team just for this game. Anyways, if you don't know what that is, look up One Shining Pod and look up Chicago State. You'll figure it'll take 3 seconds. Anyway.
All right, let's move quickly through some of these other games so we can talk a little more about some of the more debatable games. Friday, November 11th, Montana State, 8:00 p.m. game at home. Agreed.
That is a win.
All right, Hoosiers starting out 2-0. And quickly, we get to a debatable game, a much harder game than a cupcake game, because Wednesday, November 14th, the Indiana Hoosiers at home will play Marquette at 8:30 p.m. Do you think their first true test of the season, Matt, do you think Indiana's going to pull it off, or do you think they're going to lose at home?
I think because it's at home, we'll pull it off. If this was neutral or away, this team would give us fits. This team shoots like Indiana State shot against us last year. Like almost they just shoot that regular, almost consistently. I think Indiana State shot 55% from 3. Marquette shoots about 45% from 3, 40% from 3 as a team. So the difference between 40 and 55% when it comes to 3-point shooting is not that much, because it's just, if you're making more than 40% of your threes, you're a very good 3-point shooting team and you can go off at any point. And Marquette is that team. Player to look out for, Marcus Howard, their point guard. He's kind of, I don't want to say Steph Curry-esque, but he's Steph Curry-esque. It's hard to compare anybody to Steph Curry, really, because he's just one of a kind. But likes to handle the ball a lot, shoots a lot of threes, likes to take lots of deep contested threes and makes them. So it's hard not to compare him, honestly. But if anybody's going to torch us, at home this year, it's going to be Marquette, because they're going to get on fire. Our 3-point shooting for IU is going to need to be on point, and or our ability to get people in foul trouble is going to need to be on point during this game. Marquette's not good defensively. They're upper 180s in KenPom defensively. At least they were last year, and I don't really see them improving at all this year, drastically. But our defense is going to need to be on point. We're going to need to shut off some of their passing lanes and make sure that they don't get some quick open threes. And just hope that they don't, have one of those nights where everybody's a human torch.
Yeah, I agree. You said a lot of it, and to keep moving forward, I'm not going to add too much more. I especially the very first home game too, because all of the optimism is still here, and unless somehow IU loses to Chicago State or Montana State, then the crowd's really going to show for this Marquette game, especially because this is one of the only big non-conference games that we have at home, really, because it's really Marquette and then Louisville, since we've got Arkansas and Duke away. Butler's at a neutral site. Even Northwestern as an early Big Ten game at home, they're not much as I think Marquette might be the biggest. It's debatably could be the biggest game that this IU crowd will show up for in November, December. So I agree. I think just because it's at home, that's a huge help for Indiana, especially even though it's on a Wednesday. That 8:30 tip-off time is going to be great, especially for students and other people coming down for the first real test for IU. Let's go to Sunday, November 18th.
Wait, did you say it was going to be a win or a loss?
A win, yeah.
All right, so we both agreed. Okay.
Yep. So far right now, IU starting 3-0 for both Matt and Noah. Sunday, November 18th, Arkansas. We go all the way down, travel to the south. We got an away game. It'll be 3:30 p.m. So how do you look at this Arkansas game? For a first true road test. It's not like a weird game. At least we do have a first true road test early in the season.
This is a road test, but this is not a true road test, in my opinion. And the only reason I say that is because it's over Thanksgiving break, and the students aren't going to be there at Arkansas. So it's going to be a little bit more mellow of an environment going into Arkansas loves their basketball, actually. Fun fact. Anyways, they have Daniel Gafford, who's a 7-foot center. He was projected to possibly be a lottery pick last year by a couple people. I think he probably would have gone in the first round, maybe late first round, but he decided to stay and come back. He projects as probably a lottery pick this year if he plays well. So that'd be an interesting matchup for our centers and our big guys. Definitely a good test there. And probably is a very good early season test for our big guys, especially because when you get to the Big Ten schedule, almost every team, if you go down the list, has a big center that we're going to have to play against. Or especially the good teams have a big center, Nick Ward, Matt Harms, everybody's got the two guys that they got at Maryland. So you're looking at big centers all across the board that are going to need some D and up. And Arkansas has definitely got that. But other than him, they lost their other two best players. So they lost two of their three best players. And so I believe that this should be a win. It's a good test. It's a good, it's a road game, but it's not like as hard of a road game as it could be. So it's a good, kind of, just dabbling into the water of the road for the team.
Yeah. And to your point about losing two of the best three players, they also lost basically a bunch of the rest of their team, the majority of the rest of their team.
I meant to say litmus test, by the way, a litmus test of the away games. But you know what? There we go. I said it. Dabbling in the water.
Also, when you talked about big guys, we got some good news recently about Deron Davis, who I think for everyone is coming to a shock more of his timetable to return, that he's been now full participation. He played about 10 minutes during the secret scrimmage, so he's not going to get obviously a lot of time, but he's going to be able to get out there. And even though Deron is not a guy that Archie might actively recruit in the future, at least his type of player, Deron, Archie's going to find a spot for Deron on this team, and he's going to be able to find a way to help Deron contribute, especially against those teams that have a bigger guy. But I agree. Another W. So we got both Matt and Noah starting 4-0. Do you think that Tuesday, November 20th, 7 p.m. home game against UT Arlington, do we need to talk about it?
No, that's a win.
All right, 5-0. Now we get to the one debatable game that we talked about, the one potential trap game, the Friday, November 23rd. Matt talked just a little bit about UC Davis, 7:00 p.m. at home. With this potential trap game, do you think IU goes back to their past few years, their recent woes against Indiana State and Fort Wayne, or do you think they're past that and they get the win?
I think this game is going to be closer than people think.
Agreed.
Because UC Davis is a good game, but it's also the day after Thanksgiving and also the day before Duke. You could not have scheduled this for a worse date. I wish the UT Arlington and the UC Davis games have been flipped.
The game before Duke, but the day before the Purdue game for football.
Right, but it's also the day after Thanksgiving, and I think that's a lot more distracting than people realize.
Oh, it is.
And things can happen, family and stuff. I still think we win it, just because I think this team on talent alone should win this game. But I would buckle in for this game, folks. That's all I'm saying.
If you're at
I'll
home,
be there though.
If you're at home, yeah, don't sit back and relax too much. I agree though. I think they're going to get a win. I don't think Juwan and Romeo being one of the best 1-2 punches in the country. Honestly, I don't think they're going to let a team of that caliber stand in their way. Of course, IU's going to get a few losses, but I don't think they're. I think at least for this season, they might be past this. All they got to do is at least get past UC Davis. But then we get to the big game itself. Another very, very late start, but Tuesday, the 27th, which we'll have to talk about our podcast for that day, because that'll be a little interesting, because we've got Duke as an away game, but it's a 9:30 p.m. tip-off time. We've got another incredibly late game. Do you think going to Cameron, do you think IU is going to be able to pull it off this early in the season to a top-ranked Duke team who has the only 3 better players than Romeo ranked in the incoming recruiting class?
Here's the thing about Duke. I actually know a lot about Duke because I don't dislike Duke, and my best friend Andrew goes there. Here's the thing about Duke. They have 3 great freshmen, actually 4 great freshmen. So they have Cam Reddish, who played high school basketball with Mo Bamba and Jake Forrester. They have what's his name? Zion Williamson.
How could you forget his name in recent
I was not forgetting his name. I was forgetting RJ Barrett's name.
There you go.
Who was number 1 recruit in 24/7 rankings, and then number 1 point guard in Trey Jones, who is Tyus Jones' little brother, who played at Duke and now plays. I think he plays for the Timberwolves still. But yes, they have 4 great freshmen, but none of those guys are a center. And the weak spot, believe it or not, in
so
Duke's
it's not
team,
like Marvin Bagley and Wendell Carter from last
year.
Right,
exactly. You go back, Jaleel Okafor, Marvin Bagley. Yeah, like Duke recently has had great centers. This year they have Marquise Bolden, who is a 4-year, 5-star recruit. And if it tells you anything, that's not a good thing. He hasn't worked out well.
Should be going to the NBA a little sooner than 4 years.
Right. And then their second center is a 6'8" guy in Delorier. And then they have a guy from Croatia who I believe is just there for academics, honestly. Mm-hmm. So I think that this is the game in which if Duran is back and 100%, I think we could give Duke one heck of a game at Cameron, because they're not a good shooting team, and they're not going to come up against many teams. Duke isn't going to come up against many teams in the time that they have that is going to be as athletic as IU is this year and as lengthy as IU is on the defensive end. So this might be Duke's hardest defensive hardest defense that they're going to play in the first couple weeks. And I really think we could pull this out at Duke, but I'm not going to bet against history. And Duke hasn't lost in Durham in the non-conference in a very, very, very long time. I think it's almost 5, 6, 7 years at this point now. So I'm not gonna bet against that, and I'm gonna say we're gonna lose this game. But I also say buckle in, because this is gonna be a close game, and it's not gonna be like the 2016, 2015 game where we got blown out in Durham. And if we lose this game, it's not the end of the world, because if you go back to 2015 and look, we lost, we got blown out at Duke, but we fixed some things. We saw some things that were wrong with the team, and we got better, and we won a Big Ten title. So
that was the turning point, literally.
Yeah. Maybe we just need to play Duke every year at Duke. And
apparently, that's what the Big Ten ACC challenge. They keep wanting IU Duke to play every single year.
Since I've been here, this will be the 3rd time that we've played them.
Yep.
and we've lost both
UNC, the only
times.
one.
And my
Yep.
friend will not let me live this down. So can we please win this year? Can we please win? I'm not predicting us to win, but can we please win?
No, especially because I don't remember how many years. It's either 3, 4, or 5, something like that. That Duke has lost, I think, a total of 6 home games, and all of them have been to ACC opponents.
Yes.
So literally, teams that they see all the time, every single year. So I agree. I think it's a loss. Matt and I are both starting out 6-1. But let's go on to our first couple games of Big Ten play, where we go Saturday, December 1st, Northwestern, a 5:00 p.m. home game. How do you think IU opens up the conference?
Northwestern lost Bryant McIntosh. I think Vic Law is back. But other than that, they're kind of rebuilding, and they had a disappointing year last year, especially for Brian McIntosh's senior year. I felt bad. They shouldn't be good. This should be a win, especially at home, especially coming off the Duke game.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to say a win. Because the Northwestern has been kind of an up and down team, and I think they're more down than up this year. I think they're definitely going to be in the bottom half, if not the bottom third or fourth in the Big Ten this year. So especially an early game, I think IU has at least had enough experience to where they also play Marquette, Arkansas, UC Davis, Duke, to where they've got a bunch, about half their schedule before this game are against quality opponents. So they're also going to be ready for them. And it's a home game on a Saturday. I think it's going to be a win. So 7-1 for both Matt and I, where our conference play starts out 1-0. Now another game, which I don't know what you'll have for this outcome. Tuesday, December 4th. You're going to hear a lot of Tuesdays, which is going to be interesting for us on the podcast going recently, but we travel to Penn State. So we've got a 7:00 p.m. game away at Penn State, a team that has lost some people, but still Penn State always never seems to go away whenever they play IU. Do you think IU is going to finally lose to Penn State traveling on the road, or do you think they're going to get out another win?
Penn State always seems to give us trouble, literally in every sport. I don't know why. No matter how, like when we play them or what sport we play them, it's always a close game, except for in football, apparently. But I think we should win this game. They lost Tony Carr to the NBA, and he was their best player. And I think this team. I think Pat Chambers has Penn State going in the right direction. They will be as good as Northwestern, should be. That's a weird way to say things. They're going to be like at Iowa's level at a certain point, I think, where they're like, they can challenge for the Big Ten title, once every like 4 or 5 years. But, and that's going to be soon, but that's not this year, and this should be a win.
Okay. I'm going to say a loss. I'm going to be the first
Really?
person to differentiate it, just because first, and I don't really want to do this just by overall, because I don't want to be like, oh, I'm going to try and put IU like 12-8 or 13-7 or 14-6 or something like that. I don't want to try and put them in a specific bubble. So I'm like, all right, I need to get them at 14-6. Here's a win. Here's a win. Here's a loss. Here's a loss. But I think just this will be more of a first, the first real true after Duke, not the first real, but it'll be another huge away game, another huge test coming off of a pretty quick turnaround with Northwestern, and then you got to travel all the way to Penn State, which is not close. I think just because they've been playing them really well recently, that they're going to be able to pull it off. Again, obviously, all of these L's that Matt and I say, we hope it's going to be the different way, but it's hard for me to think that IU is going to start out 8-1 at the beginning of the season. I'm just not sure if they'll be able to come out with that much power. I think it'll be close to that, but I think they're going to start out with their first loss right there. Let's go to.
But of the 8 wins that I've said, there's only been one really good win. I guess the Arkansas game is okay, but other than that, you go down the schedule. All these teams that we're playing, they're going to be, from the upper 100s to Chicago State, who's a 300 level Division I team. So it's not like we're playing anybody. So, and here's the thing about Penn State. It's not a true road game because no one goes to their basketball games. So if I'm being brutally honest, I still don't think this is much of a road game. There's going to be, half as many Indiana fans there as there is Penn State fans. And at a basketball game, that's not really a home court advantage.
This is my trap game. They're looking ahead to Louisville and Butler, trying to get some revenge.
All right, well, that's fine. I'm going to disagree. But
there you go, away game, trap game. So we can disagree. That's part of having us both on here. Let's go to what I just mentioned. Saturday, December 8th, we've got a Louisville game at home. We get to come home this time for the Indiana-Louisville matchup at 2:30 p.m. W or L?
W. This is going to be a rebuilding Louisville team. This is not going to be like Ohio State last year where they're going to hire a new coach and all of a sudden they're going to challenge for an ACC title. They lost a lot of pieces, and the pieces that are returning have been playing backup roles, and there's too many questions on this roster for Louisville for them to be taken seriously. It might be a close game just because it's Louisville and they're going to come in with a kind of a chip on their shoulder because Romeo didn't commit, and they want to take us down because we're a close rival. I don't know about rival school, but a close school that we get compared to a lot. But no, this should be a win.
It's about a year ago that also Romeo pulled away from Louisville, so hopefully
fresh wounds.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently, so I agree. I think they're going to pull it out. Home game, especially. They get a little time off in between things.
Romeo is going to take this game very personally. Yes, I expect him to go off for about 30 points this game.
Because he was a virtual lock to go to Louisville.
Yes,
until everything happened. So he was the Trace Jackson Davis lock for Louisville for us. But did I say that?
Let's not jinx that.
Okay. Speaking of waiting, now we have a whole week in between the Louisville and Butler game, which we have a little bit of time to breathe. So we go to Saturday, December 15th. We go to Butler at 3:45 p.m. and it's not a home or an away game. Of course, we get to go to the Crossroad Classics. We got a neutral site.
So this is a home game, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, at least Butler's right there, but usually IU fans are up.
It's a very IU-centric crowd.
Exactly. Even with the Butler fans, when they're a bus ride away, the IU fans will always be in the majority. So do you think for, again, a Butler team that is also in a semi-new coaching scheme, what do you think is going to happen against IU Butler after a week of preparation?
I think this should be a win. I think Butler, they played really well last year. They actually were a very good team last year, but they lost their main scorer. I don't see them beating us. I think we're more athletic, we're more talented. I think we're going to be better coached. Will this be a close game? I'm sure. But I don't think, I'm not worried about this game. I think this is also a win. And this is a very good resume building win.
We've got an optimist here with all of our Matt starting.
Look down the schedule and I go, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. All of our guys are better than the guys on the other team. All right. Move to the next page. All of our guys are better than their guys. Move to the next team. All our guys. Like, a lot of teams we're playing are in a transitional phase, like, up until now. Trust me, I'm going to be giving us L's soon, but, like, not yet.
All right. I'll take your word for it because I'm going to go that Indiana loses it. Sometimes the Crossroad Classic is not very friendly to them, no matter how IU friendly the crowd is. I think Butler is, again, going to be some sort of a trap game, even though the makings before or after are not as much a trap game. I just think Indiana's not going to come out as hot just because also they're a pretty new team together. They did lose 5 seniors and they had 5 new freshmen come in, and you're also incorporating race, and you're coming off of a Devontae and race injury that we're not sure when they're going to be able to come back and all this stuff. So I think they're bound to stumble at least a couple times, and I think Butler is one of those games to where they're going to, for at least my perspective here, they're going to start the season at 8-3 with a 1-1 Big Ten record, which, again, even if that happens, that's nothing to be ashamed about at all. 8 wins and 3 losses is still pretty good, and those 3 losses are to big teams, relatively big teams. You got Duke, and then Penn State. A lot of conference games can go either way, and then Butler. So that's not too bad. But then you got Matt, who's 10-1, 2-0 in conference play. But we're getting to a little bit more of some of the other games that we're not going to even talk about much. So this is going to even pad Matt's stats for now. But do you think it's worth talking about Wednesday, December 19th, Central Arkansas, 7 p.m. at home?
Let's just sweep the state of Arkansas. That's a win.
There we go. Yeah, the small state of Arkansas. All right, Saturday, December 22nd, Jacksonville, 6 p.m. home game. Win or loss?
That's going to be a win.
Yep. Okay. There we go. I'm glad we're going through some of these quickly, but let's get into the rest of the conference schedule. You want to say something?
Yeah. Then we have about 2 weeks, and then we play Illinois.
Yep. And then we start our January gauntlet that we talked about on a previous episode. Well, actually, Illinois, Michigan, and then we have just a tiny break, and then the gauntlet of all of the stuff that we have. So I assume both Matt and I might have a couple losses, especially for not only a lot of games, but a lot of hard games as well. So, but let's start first. We'll go Thursday, the first game of the new year. So January 3rd. Illinois, 7 p.m., a home game. Again, it'll still be on the break, so we won't have a student section, but do you think that's going to matter against an Illinois team?
No, we should win this game.
All right. So before basically the meat of our entire schedule right now, Noah's got it at 11-3 with 2-1 in conference play, and Matt is all the way at 13-1 with 3-0 in conference play. And I'm pretty sure if it goes Matt's way, with that'd be a pretty good ranking, especially for us, because our only loss is to Duke, and we're 13 wins, we're 3-0 in conference play. So we should have a pretty decent ranking as well, if that were the case. But things are going to get a little iffy right here. And this is where a lot of stuff might differ between Matt and I. So we're going to Sunday, January 6th, Michigan. It's going to be either a 1:30 or 4:30 p.m. game. It is away, which is the key word there, I think, against playing Michigan. So what are your thoughts on Michigan away?
Is school back in session yet? I think this is the Sunday right before school starts.
Yes, right before school starts, which that is a factor.
Yeah, so everybody's just coming back, but they're not quite back yet because it's a 1:30 or 4:30 start.
4:30 will help that if it for that.
4:30 will help that, but 1:30 will not. But I expect us to be both of us be really good, so that should be a 1:30 tip off. I'm gonna say we're gonna win this game, and here's why, because there's not gonna be a true student section there, because it's gonna be 1:30 tip off on a Sunday, but they're not even back to school yet. And I'm going to say we're going to beat probably at this point the higher ranked team, and we're going to upset them, and we're going to move to 4-0 or 5-0 in the conference for me. 5-0 in the conference. 4-0 in the conference for me.
I just can't go against history again. It's kind of like the Duke game, even as well as IU plays. I just can't go against history. Indiana does not play well in the state of Michigan for basketball or football. They do not play well, and that's not even a debate. So, again, Michigan's supposed to obviously take a couple steps back, but they're still going to be really good. So I think even if there's no student section there, I think that's going to be a loss. Then we're going to go to, which again, if Indiana gets that, man, there's that Sunday, the next Monday, the rankings are going to come out. Indiana could be really high depending on how everyone else turns out. That could be almost a top 5 ranking, depending on how other teams have played. Yeah. If our only loss is to Duke and we beat Michigan. But let's go to Friday, January 11th, playing Maryland at 7 p.m., but it is away. So all the way in the D.C. area. Do you think a much improved, potentially Maryland team, do you think Indiana is going to falter against Maryland, which I will hopefully be at since I live over here? I'm going to hope to see if I can go to that game.
I'm gonna say we're gonna lose that game, and only because Maryland
first loss, Big Ten loss for Matt.
Yeah, because Maryland is known for how hard it is to play there. They have a very decent team this year. I'm actually pretty high on Maryland. I think Bruno Fernando's gonna be pretty good. They got a 5-star recruit coming in, playing center, and Cowan, their point guard, is going to be like a top 10 point guard in the country. And especially at home for Maryland on a Friday night. Yeah. And we're probably going to be a top 5 team. This is a loss.
Yeah. Out of the 2 expansion teams that there are a lot of Twitter jokes going around, especially right now, in a lot of bad ways. But Maryland is the one team that is the most Big Ten-like, where they've got an okay football program. It's not Rutgers
It's
or,
not special.
but it's still, but their basketball is really Big Ten-esque. They love basketball in Maryland. They haven't in the past 10 or so years they haven't had the kind of seasons that they used to, but early 2000s and earlier than that, they really are a team that everyone loves their basketball there. So I, just like Matt said, I'm echoing everything he says basically, especially the fan base there. It's going to be a Friday game, an evening game. I think they're going to come out. Also, Indiana has not played Maryland very well since they've been in the Big Ten. They've lost more than enough games against Maryland. So I agree. I think that's going to be another loss, which for me, it's looking a little grim, at least to start out, but we're getting a lot of experience for this. And I've got them at 2-3 in the conference play. So they're negative in conference, but do you think they're going to bounce back against Nebraska on Monday, November 14th, a 6:30 p.m. home game?
Yeah, I think we should beat Nebraska. I like Nebraska's I like the school Nebraska, all right, and I like James Palmer Jr.
Like
I
some
do
corn.
not understand the hype around this team. They were not that good last year. They had a joke of a Big Ten schedule. They didn't make the tournament, and it's not like they added anybody. They didn't really lose anybody. It's not like they added anybody either. So give me this win.
Yeah, I agree. Not much to talk about. I think that's going to be a game that's again a little closer, like we talked about, than people might want it to be, because Nebraska I think is going to be better than people realize. But I don't think they're going to. I don't think
Yeah,
IU's going to lose.
when you look at Nebraska, you think of them as a football school. Their
Mhm.
football team's awful this year, but their basketball team is better. I just don't think they're as good as some of the national writers think
Oh
they
yeah,
are.
no, I agree.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, that's what I was meaning. It's going to be a closer game than what people think. But again, it's also going to be the first home game in 2 weeks. It's going to be the first home game back from break. It's going to be basically the beginning of conference play, the majority of conference play for the students. When you think of it that way as well, it's also going to be like a week and a half after students get back as well. So people are going to be hungry. They're going to be able to show up even for a Monday game. It's not going to be a full stadium, or arena, I don't think, but I'm also going to have a win as well. So let's go to Saturday, January 19th. This is where we start to get to a lot of close games and also a lot of traveling, because, again, we just had Michigan and Maryland away. We came back for one game home at Nebraska, but now we travel to West Lafayette. Saturday the 19th, a 2 p.m. game in West Lafayette. How do you think the first of our home away for 2018-2019 goes with Purdue?
I think we lose this game only because it is Archie's first trip to Mackey. It is very hard to play at Mackey Arena. If one thing Purdue does right, it's that they have one heck of a home court advantage. And it pains me because I'd like to sleep. I'd like to sleep. I like to sweep this series. There's a Freudian slip right there. I like to sweep the series, but I think Purdue will get the best of us in a very, very close game. And painfully, I think Carson Edwards is going to hit a buzzer beater to beat us in this game.
Yeah, I'm even going to go even really close to that as well, to the exact outcome you said as well. I do think they're going to end up losing, because Purdue's going to put on a fight. They're definitely going to take a step back from what they were last year, but Carson Edwards is really going to lead them, unless we have a breakout defender for point guards by then. Even Romeo guarding him, I don't know if Romeo is going to be able to do too much on him, just with the experience Carson Edwards has. So especially a Saturday game too, even if those in the afternoon, those students are definitely going to show up. So echoing again the student section there. So yes, sorry if any Purdue fans are listening to this, which I doubt they are, but yes, we're even giving a shout out to the Purdue student section. As obnoxious as they are, they at least show up. Let's go to Tuesday, January 22nd. We got to travel now to Chicago against Northwestern for a 9 p.m. game. Another away game, the fourth out of 5 away games in a row. How do you think Tuesday the 22nd against Northwestern at a very late game again is going to go?
We're going to be upset coming off the Purdue loss. I feel bad for Northwestern in this game. This is a win.
Yeah, I agree. Northwestern's not a great team this year. I don't think they're going to do much. Yeah, even at a home game, which also that's another story for another day. Their home game situation is still a little weird. So So I think greener pastures are on the horizon after playing Northwestern and maybe getting a win. So we'll go to Friday, January 25th against Michigan. So we get to see them again, just basically a month, or not even a month later. Whoa, it's almost 3 weeks later. That's how close we get to play Michigan, 6:30 p.m. at home. Does IU get the sweep for you against Michigan, or are you going to split the series?
I think this is our first home loss. I think we split the series. They're going to be upset that they lost at home, and that they lost without the student section there. And they're going to come in with a vengeance. John Beeline's going to get them ready because it is getting close to the end of the season, and it's getting close to the back end of the season, and that's when Michigan usually gets much better and gels as a team. And so I think this is one of their first big wins on their road to trying to recreate what they did last year.
I'm going to do it the opposite just because I had them losing the first game. I think
Right.
IU is going to have the opposite mentality. So I think IU is going to win this. Again, it's a Friday game. People are definitely going to show up for that game. And yeah, Indiana is going to be able to overcome that to help preserve home court, especially because for me, they've at least have they had? I don't think I've actually had them as a home loss yet. Oh, look at that. So you have the first home loss out of all of us, but I do think they're actually going to get it. All right. Wednesday, January 30th against Rutgers at 7 p.m. Even though it's away, do you think there's a chance that Indiana loses to Rutgers in the regular season at least?
Rutgers is a joke. This is a win.
I think this is one of the ones that we don't have to talk about very much either. Even though
my expert analysis. You're welcome.
Even though they lost to them in the Big Ten tournament last year, and a few times,
especially because we lost to them in the Big Ten tournament last year. I'm putting Juwan Morgan to have 25 this game and 15 and 5 blocks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's gonna be upset.
That was part of my point. And then also, even though Rutgers is like I said, they won the Big Ten tournament, and they have played IU pretty close for a lot of games. Sadly, the IU's had to pull out some games, especially at Rutgers too. Remember, it was only a couple years ago where Zach McRoberts had to win the game for Indiana at Rutgers. So I think it's going to be. I don't think there's much about it. So we'll move on to Saturday, February 2nd I think this is one of the easiest games we don't have to talk about as well. At Michigan State, 2 p.m., 4 p.m., or 6 p.m. They don't know. They're not going to make up their mind. So either 2, 4, or 6 p.m. We're going away to Michigan State.
Here's one of those games where I take in the history of results. I don't care who's coaching IU and who's coaching whatever team that you're rooting for. It is very hard to get a win at Michigan State. Tom Izzo gets that place amped up. That team is ready for you. I think this is a loss.
All right. I think it's a loss too. There's not much to talk about. Even the good Indiana teams have struggled against Michigan State.
What's the records right now? What's our records right now?
After Michigan State right now, I have overall 15-7, 6-5 conference. You've got 17-5, 5-4 conference. So they're actually pretty similar after a different start.
Yep.
And yeah, like I was saying, even good Indiana teams against not as great Michigan State teams, they just can't find a way to win in Michigan State. And to all of Michigan State's credit, and not even to Indiana. The other team having Indiana's number, kind of like Wisconsin, it's more to Michigan State's credits team. So especially on a Saturday, Michigan State's going to get the win. Then we'll move to Thursday, February 7th, home against Iowa at 9 p.m. Another weird home Iowa game. I feel like the last few years we've played Iowa at home has been a very weird game that not a lot of people have shown up to. But if Iowa can play defense, do you think Iowa's going to get the win, or do you think they're not playing defense right now and Indiana's going to shut them down?
9 p.m. Thursday tip. What the?
Yep.
Yeah, we should win this game. It'll be a high-scoring game just because Iowa likes to shoot. And likes to run, but plays absolutely no defense. Kind of reminds me of like Tom Crean teams almost. But yeah, we should win this game.
I agree. We've also had relatively, especially after that was the game that secured the Big Ten, the overall Big Ten champion for us for the year. We've kind of had Iowa's number most, pretty much, even though last year it took Robert Johnson having basically a college career game for him to come back and beat Iowa at Iowa. But we've been able to play Iowa pretty well, unless they have a breakout season, which they could potentially do. They have the talent for it. I just don't think it'll still happen yet. I think they're still another year or so away from getting back to the middle or the top of the Big Ten. So I think another weird tip-off time Indiana is going to get the win.
What are you saying? Noah, you're muted or like muffled.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure why I'm muted. Hello? Check. All right.
No, you're still. Oh wait, there you go. What are you doing? What did you just do?
Okay, we good?
Yeah, we're good. That was weird.
That was weird. Sorry.
Technical issues.
Yeah.
We'll edit that one out.
Yeah.
It's a
Like
live show, folks.
Like I was saying, IU win.
IU win for, was this Iowa?
Yep. All right. Let's go to Ohio State. Sunday, February 10th. Ohio State 1 p.m. game at home. Well, actually, I don't want to say improved Ohio State team, because last year they weren't supposed to be that good. So probably maybe a decrease in the Ohio State output, but potentially this could be a toss-up. What do you think happens with Ohio State at home, though?
Yeah, Ohio State at home. I don't really see this Ohio State team doing very well. I think they got some reinforcements coming in next year that'll be really good. And they'll be really good soon as well. Just like I said about Penn State. Again, but we should win this game. I have a hard time seeing us losing at home to a depleted Ohio State team.
Yeah, I agree. I think, especially I don't even know as much as depleted, but I just think Indiana's going to be able to pull it out, especially from the way they left things last year. That game that was at the end of the season that IU really wanted to get out, but they ended up not getting it. And I think they're going to try and come back, especially for a game that IU wants to try and beat Ohio State more than less. Especially coming off of not being able to beat them ever in football. So let's go to Saturday, February 16th. You've got Minnesota away at Minnesota at 2 p.m.
We go to the Barn, and that is a notoriously awful place to play in the Big Ten. I think this is actually a pretty decent Minnesota team. And if everybody's healthy for Minnesota, this is a loss.
Okay. I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to think that even though the Barn is historically there, I think this is going to be a game that people think IU is going to lose, and it might be a trap game for Minnesota. So I think that IU is going to go in there, be able to get a win, and I think that's going to be more of a statement win for them compared to others. So I have them getting the W. So let's pause. Actually, let's go through the next game, and then I'll update the records again. Okay. So we got now Tuesday, another Tuesday game. What do you know? February 19th, Purdue at home, 7 p.m. Where are you at for the Purdue rematch at home?
Puck Purdue. This is a W.
Yeah, I agree. Because we both had the same loss at the beginning and then win for home. I think they're going to get their revenge.
Student section will be out with a vengeance, I am sure. Big game. I'm sure Purdue will be ranked as well at this point. They're going to be a pretty decent team this year. They're not going to be as good as they were last year, but they'll be a pretty decent team. But yeah, everybody's going to show up, show out. Go IU.
Yeah. Standings. I did something wrong with your math, so let me check that real quick. Let's go to Friday, February 22nd. We're going to away at Iowa this time at 9 p.m. We got a lot of 9 p.m. games, and that's not over because the next week's a 9 p.m. game. But Iowa, Friday night, 9 p.m. Where are you seeing Iowa?
This Iowa team doesn't project to be very decent. It's a 9 p.m. game on a Friday. That means the student section is probably also not going to be very present either. So I think this is a win. I think we sweep Iowa this year.
All right. I agree. I think it's another win. Um,
So what's that?
where
What's that put me at?
You didn't give me time. I was having you try and talk.
Oh
Let's
my
go to.
goodness.
I did want to talk for a minute about this. Regardless, Tuesday, another Tuesday game. Look at that. Tuesday, February 26th, Wisconsin home. Big key word there, Wisconsin. You see Wisconsin home at 9 p.m.
Thank
Talk
God we
about
don't got to
this
play in
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, talk about this Wisconsin game because it's home for a minute. Because I think if it was at Wisconsin, we'd be talking about it for zero amounts of time. But what happens at home for a Wisconsin team that's actually doing that could be back on the upswing, back towards the top of the Big Ten?
They're gonna be an upswing. I really like Brad Davidson. He's like a pit bull of a player. He's awesome, and with 2 working shoulders, this year should be pretty decent. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Brad Davidson's a point guard, the white point guard for Wisconsin. Played all of last year with 1 torn shoulder. Kept popping out of place and crazy. He still kept playing though, so good for him. Ethan Happ, how can you not remember Ethan Happ? He's the other 6'8", 6'9" center who's gonna score in multitude of ways, and he's just such a good college basketball player, and he's so much fun to watch when he's not playing IU. So I think this Wisconsin game is going to give us some trouble, like Wisconsin always does. But I think if you look at how things have panned out, we've won 3 of the last 4 games, and the last one's against Purdue. Or no, sorry, 4 of the last 5 games. Last one being at Iowa, and then you got a 4-day turnaround, and then it's at home. I think this is going to be a win.
All right, you do think it's going to be a win?
Yeah.
We've got that at. I'm going to have it as a loss. I think that's going to be my first home loss for Indiana. I just think, for me, they've at least come off of 5 wins, so they're on a bit of a winning streak. So I think things are just going to come down a little bit, and this Indiana team is going to be good, but not enough to keep winning. At least, maybe going undefeated at home. I really hope they do, but I don't think they're going to be able to pull it out on a Tuesday evening, especially because we're coming off of a bunch of games as well. February is a little packed too. And right after this game is where we get a pretty big breather, where we've got some time to breathe before the next few games. So I think they're going to be a little tired. Again, Ethan Happ is, I don't want him to have a good game, but I think he might have a good game. But let's see, I think I did all of this math correctly. So that puts me, we're very similar. That puts me at 20-8 with an 11-6 conference record. And Matt at 22-6 for overall and a 12-5 conference record. Going into the final 3 games, which the last 2 are not going to be much to talk about, but I think this next game, Saturday, March 2nd, which is my birthday, but Michigan State, 12 p.m. home, Michigan State. Are we going to get some revenge against at this point, both teams hopefully fighting for the Big Ten winners, Big Ten champions? How do you think this Michigan State game, 3 games out from the end of the season, is going to play out?
This is going to be a game where the student section has been cooped inside all winter. They've been nothing but watching. They've done nothing but watch IU basketball, and then according to me, we're 22-6, probably ranked in the top 15. We're sitting there, in contention for the Big Ten title with only 5 losses, and we're going to come out in full voice, and we're just going to hand it to Michigan State in Bloomington for a 12 p.m. Saturday game. Everybody's going to show up. It's going to be a packed house. I know. And we're going to beat Michigan State.
No, Saturday. No, it's a Saturday. 12 on a Saturday. Crazy time. Yeah, I think IU is going to get the win, especially with the recent losing at Michigan State. I don't think this team this year is going to be a team to take a lot of losses lightly. I think they're going to really try and rebound and get back to winning, especially because I really do think Indiana and Michigan State, among who knows who else, but I think those are going to be 2 of the teams that are competing for the top, whether IU is at the top or at least competing. I think this is going to be, I think Michigan State will probably be ahead of IU, but this will be a huge game for Indiana to try to get a game back on Michigan State. Like Matt said, we haven't really had a lot of home games, because if you look at the most recent games, well, actually the most recent games kind of go away from that. But we had a 9 p.m. Tuesday game for Wisconsin. Then before that, another 7 p.m. Tuesday game for Purdue. So those are the big ones. But then we really got a 1 p.m. Ohio State game, a 9 p.m. Thursday game against Iowa. Before that, you got a Michigan game. But look, that Michigan game's all the way back in January, Monday the 14th, Nebraska at home. So really a lot of our home games, like Matt said, we've been cooped up inside a while, so we're going to have a lot of fans out for the next few games because right after Illinois, we finish Rutgers at home. But first, let's stop at March 7th. We've got Illinois away, so we get to go to Urbana-Champaign at 8 p.m. Do you think we're going to have a last year, or when I mean last year, do you think we're going to have the outcome that happened last year that shocked the world on that Wednesday evening that I was so mad going to bed? That was such an awful game. But do you think Indiana's going to lose in Urbana-Champaign, or do you think they're going to get a W?
8 p.m. on a Thursday for a team, Illinois team that I project to be near the bottom of the conference. So there's not going to be much student presence at Illinois, probably not much of a presence at all. This is a win.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Indiana, I think also they're going to think about what I just said with last year, and they're going to be like, oh, no matter how good we are, I think this is like we can still lose to teams like this. So they're not going to come into this game. They're not going to take it for granted, even though the last two games are teams that are going to be against teams that are going to be at the bottom of the Big Ten. So I think Indiana is going to come away with a win, and they're going to finish strong, especially because right now I have them beating Michigan State. So they're coming off of a great win. They're going to beat Illinois. And Matt, for the most amazing time throughout the entire week, we've got a Sunday, March 10th, Rutgers at noon on a Sunday for a home game. So we've got a great time, noon on a Sunday against Rutgers.
So this is going to be a sad game because it'll be my last game in Assembly Hall as a student, because I'll be graduating, and there'll be tears flowing down my face, I'm sure, but also tears of joy because we will have won this game and surely, with only 5 losses in the conference, be up at the top challenging for a Big Ten title.
We've got a crazy senior day game. I say senior day because it's like it's not really nighttime for the senior night, but crazy senior night game for Indiana where they get to play Rutgers. So I don't think it's much of a challenge, especially because it's senior night. So even if Rutgers was like semi decent and they were 9th or 10th in the Big Ten and they were playing really well, I don't think IU is going to take them lightly, even at home, because it's the last game for Juwan Morgan. That's people are going to show up for that, even regardless of if it's Rutgers or Illinois or Michigan State or Purdue, they're going to show up for this game, especially because Juwan has meant so much to these fans in the past year or two, more than anyone thought they would coming into when he came at IU. And we'll have, especially also we got Zach too. Everyone's really latched onto the senior class, and I think everyone's really going to like Evan as he goes throughout the year. And right now everyone likes him anyway because he doesn't miss a 3-pointer. But I think everyone's really going to latch on to these players. Senior night is not going to be a game that Indiana loses. They're going to finish strong going into the Big Ten tournament at 23-8 for an overall record for Noah, with a 14-6 conference record, which is lower than I thought, but it's not a bad year considering what happened last year. And then Matt's got a 25-6 record with a 15-5 conference record. So in the end, we're actually pretty close. We were 2 wins and losses away on overall, and 1 win and loss for conference record. And again, like you heard during this podcast, we didn't even talk about this at all beforehand because we wanted to make it authentic to see what we thought. We didn't want to play off each other at all. So where does this put, so we can try and finish up a more longer episode, where does this put IU in terms of Big Ten standings going into the Big Ten tournament and potential NCAA? Again, we're not sure because we're talking about this before games have happened, but where could this potentially put IU And we don't even want to talk about seeding because that's just way too far. We don't know how other teams are going to do. But how do you think Indiana's going to go in terms of Big Ten and then NCAA postseason opportunities?
I think Big Ten, I think it'd be a disappointment, especially with how I think the team projects out if we don't make it to like the final four of the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah,
Uh,
first 2 days is a bye.
yeah, first 2 days is a bye, and then we win our next game. So that we make it towards. Isn't that how that works? First 2 games of the bye.
Mm-hmm.
Math checks out. So we should make it to the semifinal game. We should win 1 or 2 games of the Big Ten tournament.
You want to play Friday, so then you can get to Saturday.
Yes, I want to get to Saturday. As long as we get to Saturday, that's fine.
Yeah, especially in recent years, that's definitely a win for Indiana in recent years. So I agree. I think Matt's statement of being in the first 2 days as a bye, I really think that's a goal for this Indiana team. I think maybe there'll be more 3 or 4. I really hope they're 2 or 1, but I think maybe it'll be 3 or 4. But they really do need to try and get to that Friday bye. That'll really help. And both our conference records, I think, are something that can get Indiana to the Friday games, which I hope they can win at least one, like Matt said, to get to Saturday. Because again, even if we lose Saturday, I don't want to get blown out, but even if we lose Saturday, even if it's a blowout, I think at least for recent memory of Big Ten showouts for Indiana men's basketball, this will be much better than recent stuff, and people will still be excited because also if you get a top 4 seed in the Big Ten tournament, that's a pretty good is a pretty good likelihood that you are also going to be in the NCAA tournament. And I think that's where this team needs to go. If they don't get in the NCAA tournament, I think it'll be a disappointing season. So they are our goal, get a top 4 seed in the Big Ten tournament. I think that'll be a positive step in the right direction for Archie Miller and his basketball program. Make the NCAA tournament. We'd want around 4 or 5 or 6 kind of seed, if not higher. But let's get to one listener question real quick before we wrap up. Ben, is there a reason to suspect that Devontae Green will be more consistent this year, or should we expect to see more Finney this year? I'll let you make quick remarks, and I'll just follow it up before we wrap up.
I think if we want to do as I just predicted, we need Devontae to be not only consistent, but to improve. And we need him to be consistently improved. You get what I'm saying? He needs to do both at the same time. So, I mean, from everywhere on the court, we need him to be a better distributor. We need him to be a better ball handler. We need him to guard better. We need him to play defense as a team, like as the team better. We need him to shoot better. And we need him to be more versatile and willing to play multiple positions. And by that, I mean multiple roles. So he needs to be either the primary ball handler or the secondary ball handler on the floor at almost all times for us to do as well. Do I like Finney? Yes. If Finney is somehow a savant and plays well, that's fine. But if we want to be really good, we need Devontae Green to also be really good. So I'd say Devontae's the more important of those two, and it's crucial for our season if he's playing well.
Do I think he's going to be playing more consistently? I can't say yes just because we haven't seen it. The last 2 seasons, we've wanted Devontae to start playing consistently. So, no, I don't think he can play consistently. Do I think that does that mean he's not going to? No, I just think, I think his is really, I need to see it and then I'll believe it. If I see I'm definitely going to believe it.
I'm agree to disagree on that because I think he's going to have a lot less pressure this year.
Oh, I agree.
So consistency for me is him not having to feel like he needs to jack up shots. Because if you look at the games last year that he played awful in, it was the games in which Robert Johnson also played awful in. And I don't think that was Devontae's fault. I think Robert had a cold night. And so Devontae said, I've taken on myself to shoot 10 threes and made 3 of them, which is fine, but he's jacking up, contested threes from the logo, and that's not his game.
And I guess my point was really yes and no. like, yes, I think he'll be more consistent, but no, just because I need to see it first type of
Okay.
thing. Like that's what I mean. So yes and no. Like I definitely think he will be consistent. I'm just not going to believe it until I see it. So even if it's the first month through and he's not consistent, doesn't mean he's not going to be. I just need to see it first and then I'll believe it. But the fantasy, I think that's all up to him. I think he's going to definitely be able to get some minutes because these guards are definitely going to get some minutes times. But that's a question that we can start talking about later because we need to wrap up this longer than usual episode. That about wraps it up, folks, for our 60th show of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you all so much for joining us. I want to give a shout out to Indiana HQ for starting this partnership. So go check them out. Check out their Twitter at Indiana HQ. Check out their website, indianahq.com. Start looking at all of the stuff that we're going to now start doing together. We are now one and the same. Stay tuned through updates on Twitter at The Hoosier Sound and Indiana HQ, Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube and visit our website at thehoosiersound.com and indianahq.com to find all of our information regarding our podcast. As always, send us your questions as the audience, so be sure to comment, chat, or send us a message at contact@thehoosiersound.com on what questions you have. We'll get them on our next episode. Lastly, if you enjoy the show, leave us a review, tell a friend, share our links. It really, really, really helps so that we can grow this podcast. But as always, thank you for listening, Hoosier Nation, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.